Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Road to Grandmaster series. This is the final recap of my second tournament back to competitive chess in July of 2024. It's in New York City, it's the 9th round, and I've got 7 points out of 8. One of the best tournaments that I have ever played, although, of course, going into it, I was one of the higher seeds. I still needed to defend my position. This is going to be a very exciting recap. Also, the amazing Patreon subscribers on the GothamChess Patreon who get access to all of the Grandmaster lessons that I'm doing, as well as a bunch of bonus YouTube content. When I say YouTube content, I mean even stuff that's not posted here. They saw this recap first. So in this recap, I'm going to show you the game. I'm going to give you an update about what my ELO is, and I'm going to tell you what my next tournaments are, because I'm actually not playing in the original tournament that I was scheduled to play later in July. I wanted to rest, just like the tennis pros do. Not to compare myself to Alcaraz or something, but, you know. Close enough. And so, going into this game, I had an interesting pairing because I'm playing against this young man from England. He's 2062, but that as a 16-year-old could mean anything. He's had some wins in this tournament. He just beat a 2200. And he's a weird player. A lot of his games are kind of d4, c4, knight f3. I kind of got the sense he wasn't like an opening god. But what's funny is during this tournament, he was playing the Trumpowski every game. So I was actually pretty excited to face the opening that I basically invented. I didn't invent it, but I have played 500 games, if not more, of the Trumpowski. I was actually going to let him play it against me, and, you know, we would see who's the best player. And then I sat down at the board, and he went here, and I looked at this young man, and I was laughing a little bit inside. You know why? Because he knows my next move. I'm not going to mix it. I'm going to go right here. I'm going to play the Caro-Kann. I've been playing it the whole tournament, and I've been playing it in Madrid, and it's what I play. Now, do I know other openings? Of course, but, like, you want to mess with the Caro-Kann? I mean, this dude is basically playing into my strongest opening, thinking he's going to out-prepare me and surprise me. Challenge accepted. d4, d5, I was like, he's going to go exchange, he's going to go classical, and he thought, and he confidently played e5. Which is the best move. I mean, the advanced Caro-Kann is uber theoretical. And here there are two lines. There is bishop to f5, which is the ultra main line. And then there is pawn to c5. Everything else is bad. c5 is what I recommend to all of you. Below 2400, c5 is by far the best weapon, by far, because it has a very direct confrontation with the center, and 8 out of 10 opponents with white will not know what to do. They just won't. They'll have no idea. Also, in my course, I have a Caro-Kann course, which you can straight up learn from this game. That's what I recommend. And so I played c5. And I knew this move was going to piss him off. Why? Because earlier in the tournament, I went here. All of my Madrid games, I went here. A lot of my database, I've gone here. In fact, I think I have never played c5 in a classical over-the-board game. But at this point, fully locked and loaded on the GM journey, I've got weapons everywhere. Everywhere. I'm going to play c5, bishop f5. I have multiple, you know, in the exchange Caro-Kann, and the other day I showed you the game against James Nguyen, where I played this e6. Like, I have so many ideas. He was clearly not happy about this move, right? He was clearly not happy, which is why he spent like a minute taking my pawn. It's the only move, really. Maybe he was considering knight f3, which is another line. And then I played e6, and right away, it was going to become very obvious to me if he was well prepared here or not. There's a lot of main lines here, like a3 and so on, but he played knight f3, and you'll notice he spent 2 minutes. Information to me. Information. Now, there's another line here, which is knight c6, not blocking the bishop, but actually in my e4 course on Chessly, I have the Caro-Kann on Chessly, I have e4 on Chessly. I like this move, which defends this pawn. It's actually probably the best move. And if you're sitting there going, stop telling me to spend money, the Caro-Kann sample is literally available for free. So you can actually learn this system for free. The big free sample. If you haven't tried it, it's your loss. And it's not those free samples. You know, you like walk by the food stalls, and the food stalls are like, oh, I try this food. And you're like, no, this is some really good stuff. I promise. So check it out, even if you don't want to spend any money. Pawn takes c5, e6, knight f3. I took back the pawn. He went bishop d3. I was like, okay, I don't think he knows what he's doing. Now, the good thing for white is that in the advanced Caro-Kann with c5, even if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get a completely reasonable position. But the main line here for white is to play a3. White really should play a3. In fact, white can play a3 as early as this move, and even play b4 as early as this move. but, you know, white can also kind of play normally and then expand, and the bishop likes to go here. The way he played it, you know, I developed my knight. And by the way, very important, you don't castle here and get Greek gifted. This is actually a very rare moment. You can lose this game in like 10 moves because your opponent can go h4. You're not in time to defend yourself because queen g4, f5, queen g3, you get slaughtered. Different from the James game, for those of you that remember, because in that game I had a bunch of development already. So I'm not stupid, at least not in chess, and I play knight c6 and he goes c3. Again, this is an indication to me he doesn't know how to play the system, but the good news for him is it's really hard to go wrong here. So c3, you know, again, a3 is really what white likes to do. He's still playing completely reasonable moves. Here I play knight to g6 attacking the pawn. He plays queen e2, and I kind of wished he had played rook e1. So I was sitting here and I was like, okay, I know the plan for black is to play f6. Here's the thing though. Let's say I castle, right? He plays like knight d2. Actually, I guess he can't even go knight d2. Let's say he plays like, because there's knight f4. But I was just thinking like in the future, what if he actually gets the pawn going to f4? And I was like, you know, I kind of don't want his rook behind the pawn. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to play queen c7, force him to play rook e1. So now his pawn is protected, but the f pawn will never move forward. And I had a feeling he was going to play the next move that he played. And that next move was pawn to h4. And the reason I knew this move was going to happen is because several rounds ago, he had played a game where out of nowhere, he put on a blistering kingside attack on his opponent. Like out of nowhere, he played g4, h4. And I was thinking like, I think he's going to play h4. And this is one thing that I think I've gotten a little bit sharper at is like reading my opponents, especially their previous games, not just the openings that they play, but their styles. So he goes h4 and I go f6 and I strike right back into the center. It's actually a whole lot worse than that because, you know, he can't go h5 because I'm just going to take the free pawn. He also can't really get rid of my knight. I mean, it's not an unreasonable move, but the thing is, you're never going to do any real damage here because I'm really the one that's coming in first. I mean, I will even go here, e4, take here. It's just a very, very bad position. So he played pawn takes f6 here. And here I already kind of saw the early makings of, you know, I'm going to be up on time. I want to put the pressure on him. It's the last game of the tournament. The second half of the European Championship football is going on. So I was like, I got to finish quickly so I can maybe catch the game. I'm just kidding because there's no way I'm going to catch it. But, you know, I was like, and what's funny also, the hotel borders a bar. So I knew every time somebody scored because nobody scored in the second half, in the first half. But in the second half, I just hear, "Woo!" And I was like, oh, it's getting spoiled. All right, well, I thought it wouldn't be spoiled, but it's getting spoiled. Now, anyway, originally intention was to play rook f6. I mean, what could be more natural, right? Defend my center, pressure here. And I was very happy that the engine blessed what I thought was wrong with rook takes f6. And it's the fact that now he can take. This is a very counterintuitive move, but the point is very simple. I now lose control of e5. And so what he's going to do next is he's going to trade with me until he completely locks down e5. And then he's got a very pleasant position. These pawns are not very good, so I made the calculated decision to play g takes f6. And I think I was watching, maybe it was Hikaru commentate, maybe his recap, I don't know, and that's become kind of a trend. Like, he does the recaps early, so then I can see him present what he thinks were my thoughts or maybe my opponent's thoughts, and I can sort of respond. I kind of like that because I do enjoy watching them. Sometimes he's definitely very sharp with what we think, but sometimes I'm like, he's just too high rated. Like, he doesn't get how us bozos think about the game. I think he mentioned, or some subscriber mentioned, like, this was from the Caro-Kann course. That subscriber might have a better memory than me. All I liked here was the fact that, you know, my king is open, but king h8 is very nice. I'm going to be very safe. And again, it's about securing the center. So now I have two center pawns. He has none. So guess what I'm going to do? e5. h5 is nothing because I want to go knight f4 anyway. And he can't stop me from going knight f4 because it straight up hangs a pawn because of my bishop. So at this point, he plays bishop e3. My original intention was like, ignore it, put the knight here, fork him. He's going to go here. Then you figure something out. And then, oh my God, there is just something in my eye and it's like scratching my eyelid. And now it's so bad that every time I blink, it's causing a problem. But we're going to get through this, and then I'm going to go wash my eye. So I decided, wait a minute, let me just take. You notice I didn't spend that much time. I thought I'd take. He's got to take with the queen, otherwise his structure is bad. And now look at this. Now look at this. And life is good. Life is good. I'm walking around the room. I'm up 15 minutes, you know. I come back. He took my knight. Kind of had to, because I was going to go e4. And now I don't even have any pawn weaknesses. Now, at this point, it's just about, okay, what's my plan of action? Where am I putting all of my pieces? I'm not going to get in a fight with him yet, because then he just blocks me. In general, these pawns, especially against knights, listen to me, pawns you generally want to use to control squares. You don't always want to lurch forward until they're ready. Now, he wants queen h6, so a move I considered here, of course, is king g7, but I thought it was a little early to move my king. I thought I should probably commit my bishop somewhere first. I had a long-term idea here to play b6, and I saw the future really deep, and I saw this really fascinating idea where he would move his knight here and go to the king side. I would play bishop b7, but then I was like, wait a minute. If I go off of, can he do this? Now, it looks really stupid. It looks really stupid, but if you give him a couple more moves, like, this actually is not that bad for white. It really isn't. And then I was like, all right, fine. If I'm not going to develop my bishop to b7, why don't I just develop the bishop to e6? And if he goes knight to d4, trying to take advantage, I'll simply back up. Now, what's funny about this position is, while he has no threats, he does have this move. And because I never managed to put my king on g7, it's actually kind of hard for me to make a move here. So I would have probably gone bishop e8 trying to trade the queen, and the engine still thinks black is slightly better, but now he has time to catch up, right? So now he has time to, but I thought in every endgame with the big center and the rooks and the bishop, I would have an advantage. Yeah, you know, I should have still played king g7 to at least completely stop this, but I was just like, queen h6 is not a threat, so I shouldn't worry about it. No, inaccuracy. But luckily for me, he went this way, and this was a mistake as well. Just so you understand, he really should be moving the knight there and then over here, because that's where the pieces are. That's where the play is. When you put the knight on b3, it looks like that's where it should go. But once I play one simple move, your knight now has to either stay there forever or retreat again. Whereas on g3, it would have lived for a while. I would have gone, you know, h5 and stuff like that. He would have gone h5. Now I need to bring my rooks to the center, which is what I did. The computer really likes this rook and wants to keep the rook on f8. I didn't get that. I didn't really get it. But I think essentially what the computer wants is king g7, and then let's say like rook h8. It wants one rook on h8 and one rook on the e file, and this is the position that it thinks that black totally dominates. I just thought, put this rook here, put this rook here. I mean, I just thought, like, he's gonna attack here, so should I. And this is very much like a clashing of the positions, you know, like, we're both in the center, you know, except I have central pawns, so I control the outcome of the game. But just so you understand, like, the game is hanging so delicately on a knife's edge. One wrong move, he blocks the pawns immediately. So just so you get it, like, it looks really smart, and it looks like in the hands of a person with control, it's all good, and it's true, but you have to be very careful. Again, knight c5, not a threat. I can move my bishop to any square. I shouldn't let my bishop get taken. Also, I think this just hangs a pawn. Also, this is a bad move, because he can, again, walk in here. So he played this move, rook d2, and I could tell from the time spend, he kind of was already feeling a bit under pressure. 20 minutes down, not a very pleasant position. Also, not just not pleasant, he doesn't have a plan, which is sort of what I thought would happen if he put his knight here. Once you put the knight there, like at least on g3, you have some pawn play. He doesn't have a plan. None of his pieces have forward mobility. So what did I have to do after rook d2? I didn't even spend, I spent, you know, between the time I wrote his move down and wrote my move down, I spent maybe 5 seconds on this move, just an improving move. He played rook e2, played g3, which is not the same quality of pawn push. This move secures the dark squares and stops this. This move secures the dark squares, but I have a light squared bishop. He shouldn't be securing the dark squares, right? So he played g3. Now I have permanent access to the light squares. Now I played king g7. Again, just two very simple improving moves, stopping the piece mobility on his side. And he went here. And here alarm bells went off. And I thought, wait, that move. Now, again, just going to quickly pause and say the engine just wants me to keep taking all his oxygen. A5. Try to go A4. If he goes A4, this is really soft now. So I have various, you know, breaks in the center in the future and things are getting weaker and stuff like that. But an alarm bell went off and I went, I'm winning. And I spent all my time advantage here. Here is what I calculated. I'm going to show you the arrows first because I'd like to show off. Bishop to g4. taking advantage of his weakened light squares. Pinning this to this and threatening pawn to e4, he has to move the rook back to d2. Once I put my bishop here and he plays rook d2, now I play pawn to d4, so that after pawn takes, it's a double attack on his queen with my pawn on d4 and the rook here, which is open now because my bishop is on g4. However, then he can play queen d3, and by a miracle, the queen protects the knight from the bishop, and the knight defends the rook on e1 from my rook on e8. So, with all that in mind, I thought I'd play knight to b4 attacking the queen, but then the queen can go to b5, hitting my knight and my rook, while the rook on e1 is still protected from the knight. You get all that? So then I started calculating. Bishop g4, rook d2, d4, take, queen d3. What if I took on e1 first, which seems counterintuitive, because why would I do that? But then I attack that knight on e1, because if it moves somewhere and stops guarding f3, I have knight e5 attacking the queen and my own knight to f3 check, so he has to protect the knight and he's very passive, and that is what I ultimately went for. Now again, this is a very big decision, because once you clarify the position like this, you run the risk of not being much better anymore. So I played d4. His queen is getting trapped among all his pieces. Somehow, again, I'm just going to... I thought this was winning on the spot. He has a miracle defense. Complete miracle. And even though the knight is hanging, you know, he has ways of getting out. Now, here what's funny is the engine gives bishop f3, rook e8, a6, trying to deflect the queen from the defense of the rook. And this very well might be winning, because I'm threatening rook e1, but then he has this and e1 is protected, but then queen c2 and maybe I'm winning. Maybe I'm winning. The king escapes and, you know, I'm threatening queen b1, queen h1. That's basically the threat. So if here, take, rook e1, rook h1 is mate, so this is GG. Now, I didn't see that. That would have been a calculation sequence of no joke. Between both players, that would have been like 14 moves. So I would have needed to see bishop g4, rook d2, d4, cd, ed, queen d3, rook e1. Excuse me, not rook e1. Knight b4, queen b5, bishop f3, rook e8, a6, queen f4, b5, queen b4, rook e8, rook d4, queen c2, rook d7, king g8, queen d2, knight d2, rook e1, bishop, knight f1, bishop e2. I didn't see that. I didn't see the move a6. I just saw that queen b5 and I have no tricks. A6 was clearly a pretty decent trick, but sadly I did not see it. And yeah, well, I went for the second best option, which was takes, and queen e7. And the point is that the knight is hanging, and this is a double threat. So he went queen f1, and again alarm bells are going off. I'm like, I have a feeling there is something here. And I was not exactly right. I was right, but I also missed one of his defensive resources. I ultimately went rook e8 because I thought the knight's hanging, so it has to move. But I also thought f3 was just super weakening, and I just thought, like, I can move somewhere and be very, like, happy. Ultimately, he went knight d3, and originally my plan here had been this move, which I realized doesn't quite work because he actually counterattacks me, which is so annoying. So then I decided, okay, I'm going to play for domination, which is, by the way, another thing that Coach has said before. Play for domination. Just dominate his position. So I went here, and I just thought, where does he move? Now, there is literally only one way to survive here with white, and it looks like a huge mistake. Because, I mean, I just thought bishop e2, but now queen c1, and somehow he's maybe surviving. I gotta tell you, rook c2 didn't even cross my mind, because I just thought bishop e2. I also thought, I mean, I don't have to play bishop e2, I just thought rook c2 doesn't have a threat. Now, the threat is kind of to bring the knight back. That's kind of the threat. And here, he hit me with a move I didn't see at all. He went knight b4. And the first thing I thought of was, oh my God, have I lost the advantage? The second thing I thought of was, that looks wrong. Is it? So the point is quite simple. If I take the knight, he takes the pawn, it's a super fork, and he's gonna get rid of my advantage. And I was like, but that's easy, because then here, rook b4, bishop h3, I win the game. Easy, boom. Because I'm threatening the queen. If he takes the queen, I threaten rook e1. If he moves, I mate him. So I thought, easy. But the craziest part is, he doesn't have to take my knight. He can spend the move getting rid of my queen and then take my knight. And I was like, oh my God, this dude is a genius. So then I saw knight e5, getting rid of the position, right? And trying to play knight f3. Knight e5, he's going to take my pawn. And then I looked at a bunch of different options. I looked at sacking my queen. Like, there's a world in which you can almost sack the queen. It never works. It never works, though. So I thought knight e5, knight d4. And then I saw, wait, what about d3? Oh, look at d3. d3 is really clever. Because after d3, if he takes my knight and plays queen d3, I have rook e1 and I win the game. If he plays rook d3, I have bishop e2 and I win the game. But the most insane thing about this position, the most insane thing, is that after d3, he can just take. And after bishop 2e2, he's surviving somehow. He's surviving, I thought, with queen h3, bishop here, queen d7 stuff. I was like, what? How is his queen getting out in time? I was like, no way, dude. No way, no way. What? Okay, fine. What about knight to e5 trying to go knight f3? And that is the winning line according to the engine. But what you need to see is knight e5, knight d4, and this move, bishop h3. And now it's really gross. His queen's hanging. If it moves, I mate him. If he takes me, I fork him. But what I had missed from a distance was the fact that there is this move f3. And I thought, oh, and he gets the, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. But then it dawned on me. And what's funny is in my old recaps, I used to say it dawned on me because I missed my opponent's defensive resources, but I actually missed my offensive resource. I missed knight e5, knight d4, bishop h3, f3. I can take! Because the point of taking, which is what happened in the game, is not the fact that the queen gets out of danger. It's the fact that now I check it here. The original plan was to check here where the queen blocks. But by getting the queen to the back rank, now there's no way for the queen to protect. I take this with check, and this is where we settle, and now I'm winning. He went for a tactical refutation of my position. It failed because he miscalculated. And now I just need to convert. Of course, I can take some pawns, but I was a little bit worried about my king, so I played what I thought was very natural, g5. Point is very simple. I want to stop knight f4. I want to open up the h-file, but there's one more point. And the point is this. Pawn to g4. I get rid of his queen. My rook is absolutely winning the endgame against the knight. What's important here is that king and knight versus king and rook is a draw, but not with pawns. The rook is simply too fast. So take, rook e2. He could win my pawn on f6. It doesn't matter. He could even, you know what's funny is like, he could even get this position. He could even get this position where, let's say, you know, king g5 and, you know, he's got the, because it doesn't matter. Like, I know I have rook a5, but let's just say I don't play it and he plays like knight e4. It doesn't matter because he's too slow. Even if he gets my king all the way to the corner, he needs help. Even if he gets a move away from winning the game, knight f7, h7, he needs more help. He's too slow. So I went into this endgame, and then here I danced around, so I took his b pawn first. I played rook a4, he resigned. And I won the tournament with 8 out of 9, 7 wins and 2 draws. And I just gotta tell you, while I give you an update here about what my elo is after this tournament, I had a performance rating of 2,581, and I gained 21.6 rating points, which puts my rating at 2,369, nice, 0.6, which rounds up to 2,370, should at least, I think, in the next rating cycle. I have played 2 tournaments since returning to competitive over-the-board chess here in 2024. In this one, I was one of the favorites. I was in an I am norm section. And actually, if you look at my first opponent, I got a little lucky against Danila. Shout out to Danila, because after losing to me, he went 7 out of 8. If you look at the final standings of the event, he's under me by a point. Like, he was unbelievable. Fully deserved, you know, at least a draw against me, at least. He was better for a couple moves. It wasn't like anything fatal, but so he got an I am norm. Congrats to him. I'm 2370. In the 2 tournaments that I have come back to play, I've played 18 games. I have 10 wins. I have 7 draws. I have 1 loss. Now, what's funny is that loss was the most painful. The most painful loss by far. I could have lost in this tournament as well. Definitely to Novik. I had a very unpleasant position, but I managed to defend it. And let me just tell you all something. I've gained 50 points since returning, 2322 to 2370. My goal for this tournament had been to get 7.5. I wanted 6 wins and I wanted 3 draws. I didn't want to lose. If I lost, I needed to get 1 more win. I exceeded even my own expectations. It's the first time I've won a tournament in like 10 years. I don't win many tournaments because most of the tournaments I play in, there's like Grandmasters and 26 and 2700s playing in open tournaments. It's the best performance I've ever had. And I'm so excited to play again. I was originally scheduled to play July 17th to 21st here in New York City, but I wanted to get a little rest. American tournaments are 2 4-hour games every single day. It is quite brutal. So my next one is in Italy. I'm playing in August in a tiny, tiny, tiny town. I know that the Italians watching this are gonna go, "What? Gotham! Gotham is coming to Italy. I have to see him." I don't know why that's your accent, all right? But I have a lot of love for Italy. If you know, I'll announce the tournament when it's closer to the time. It's a very, very small town, but you know, I already see there's a lot of Italians registered. So you know, I look forward to meeting all of you, and that's going to be a very exciting event. Much more relaxed. 5 days there. I'm going to play 1 game a day, so I'm going to have time to upload my recaps, rest, and I can't believe it, y'all. The road to GM is absolutely back. It is back. It is better than ever. Mentality is good. Training is good. It's not all going to go this well, but it might even go better. I'll see you all for the Road to GM returning for competitive play in August. I will still upload videos with Coach Nixons. Shout out to all of the people who have watched this on Patreon like 2-3 hours before it came out on YouTube. And if you still haven't checked out the Patreon, you should. It's $7 a month and you get dozens of hours of extra content. So, you know. And the Grandmasters are going to get some of these signed score sheets for free, raffled off to them, and signed with a nice note. So, and I guess the last thing I should tell you is, you know, you really should check out some of the courses that I have. This advanced Caro-Kann that I played in the last game, that's like pure Gotham course right there. So if you want to check it out for free, you can. I'll put a link in the description to it too. I'm so happy. I really am. And I exceeded even my own expectations. So, back with more videos on the Road to Grandmaster series soon. In the meantime, you know what to do. Get out of here.